now the owner of Kustoms is starting a new venture.
Behind the scenes, building cars and motorcycles, I had a small hobby shop, so that was always going. So I had built a Lincoln.
Danny Koker has finally addressed the rumors. For years, fans of Counting Cars have questioned everything from the authenticity of the show to the secrets behind his personal life. Why does he always wear a bandana? Why does he and Korie have no children? Is Kustoms really a successful business? Or is television hiding the truth? And how much of the man viewers see on screen is real? Now, at 62, Danny Koker is speaking openly about the questions fans have been asking for years. What has he finally confirmed? And why are some of his answers surprising longtime viewers? Join us as we uncover the truth about Danny Koker. The bandana was never a style choice. Walk through any episode of Counting Cars from any of its 11+ seasons, and there is one constant that never changes, regardless of what is happening on screen. Danny Koker is wearing a black bandana tied across the front of his head, sitting just above his eyebrows. It is as much a part of his identity as the shop, the cars, and the voice. Fans who follow him on social media noticed years ago that he never removes it in public. That bandana was conveniently worn at red carpets, not in photographs taken at charity functions or music performances with Counts 77. The fan theories multiplied across years of the show's run. Some people speculated it was part of a deliberate brand identity constructed for television. Others went further and suggested something more serious underneath. Danny Koker finally addressed it directly, confirming that the bandana exists for one simple and entirely ordinary reason: a receding hairline. He chose the bandana as his solution, and it stuck. And then the bandana became so associated with who he was that removing it would have created more questions than keeping it. This is a man who turned a personal insecurity into a signature so complete that millions of people would not recognize him without it. But the bandana confirmation, satisfying as it is for the fans who spent years speculating, is not the most significant thing Danny Koker has revealed about himself. Because behind the bandana and the television persona and the $15 million empire is a personal story built on faith, family tragedy, and a religious commitment so deep that he is actually an ordained minister. And most of the people who watch him every week have no idea. The version of Danny Koker that appears on Counting Cars is loud, opinionated, funny, occasionally explosive, and entirely built around a love for cars that reads as pure and genuine across every episode. What the show does not particularly dwell on is the interior life that runs underneath all of that. A faith commitment that has shaped who Koker is as a man in ways that his television persona only occasionally reflects. Danny Koker is a Christian and a devoted one. He is also an ordained minister, a detail that surprises most viewers who associate ordained ministers with pulpits and white collars, rather than with a man in a black bandana arguing about the price of a 1969 Chevelle in a Las Vegas shop. His faith did not arrive in adulthood as a choice made separately from his upbringing. It is the product of a family background that was soaked in religious music and Christian practice from the very beginning. His father, Nicholas Koker, was born in Yugoslavia and became one of the most recognizable figures in American gospel and Southern gospel music. He was the Cathedral Quartet's baritone vocalist and pianist, a music composer for bands including the Koker Family Singers, the Weatherford Quartet, the Foggy River Boys, and the Rex Humbard Family. When Nicholas moved his family to Las Vegas, he was not arriving as a tourist chasing entertainment. He was arriving as a religious broadcaster who eventually purchased Channel 33, a Las Vegas television station, which he ran as a Christian programming platform. Danny grew up inside that world. He learned to play multiple instruments from an early age. He began performing and was comfortable on camera before most kids had any idea what a television studio looked like. And the Christian faith that filled his father's household became his own in a form that has deepened rather than faded across 62 years of life. He began appearing on his father's channel 33 in 1990, hosting Saturday Fright at the Movies as a character called the Count Cool Rider. The television persona came naturally to someone who had been watching how his father operated in front of cameras since childhood. And the Count character that became his identity was a piece of deliberate performance, built on a foundation of real comfort with broadcast media. But before he was a television personality or a business owner or an ordained minister, he was a Detroit kid with Yugoslav blood and a father who understood both God and horsepower. So what pulled him from Detroit to Las Vegas, and what did he build when he got there? How a Detroit kid built an empire in Las Vegas. Danny Koker was born in Detroit, Michigan in January 1964, which places him inside one of the most consequential decades in American automotive history. Detroit in the 1960s was the manufacturing capital of the car world. The muscle car era was being born on assembly lines a few miles from wherever any Detroit kid happened to grow up. Cars were not a hobby or a passion or a lifestyle choice in that environment. They were the weather. They were what the city ran on, what the fathers worked on, what the neighborhood talked about when it had nothing else to say. His father was also an automotive enthusiast alongside everything else he did. A baseball player and hockey player who had a broad range of interests and who gave his son a childhood that connected the two worlds, religion and automobiles, that would define Danny's adult life. The mechanical knowledge that makes Danny credible on counting cars was not something he acquired after the cameras arrived. It was absorbed across years of exposure in the kind of environment that Detroit produced during that period. When the family moved to Las Vegas, young Danny brought all of that with him. After teaching himself enough mechanical skills to be genuinely useful at a professional level, he built what would become Count's Kustoms, a car restoration and customization shop in Las Vegas. He described the shop's origins as a hobby that got out of hand in the best possible way, a side project built on personal passion that grew into one of the most recognizable automotive businesses in the country. Count's Kustoms specializes in paint jobs, upholstery, frame build-ups, engine work, and the kind of comprehensive restoration and customization that turns a rusted-out classic into something that stops traffic. His first significant television exposure beyond his father's channel came in 2010 when he appeared on Pawn Stars as a car expert. He arrived at Rick Harrison's gold and silver pawn shop to sell a 1968 Mustang Fastback and ended up in front of the cameras as someone the production recognized had real presence and real knowledge simultaneously, a combination that is rarer in automotive television than the crowded field of car shows suggests. The Pawn Stars appearances led to Counting Cars, which premiered on History Channel in 2012 and has been running ever since. As of 2026, Danny Koker's net worth is estimated at $13 to $15 million. His annual income from counting cars alone sits at approximately $1.6 million, with individual episode fees estimated at $100,000 per episode during peak production years. But the counting cars income is one of several streams that contribute to the total. And understanding all of them requires understanding what else he has built in Las Vegas alongside the shop. The business empire that most fans only half know about. Count's Kustoms is the most visible part of Danny Koker's Las Vegas empire because it is the part that Counting Cars documents every week. But the shop is one of at least 4 significant business entities that Koker operates, and the full picture of what he has built looks considerably more impressive than the television show alone suggests. Count's Vamped Rock Bar and Grill is the business that his wife Korie was most directly responsible for bringing into existence. After they married, she pushed Danny toward a shared business venture that would reflect both of their personalities and their shared love of music. The result is a 2-part venue, one section for people who want to eat in peace, and a second section where rock bands perform live. Korie serves as entertainment director, booking the bands and managing the music programming. She has said that the venue hosts more than 300 concerts every year, which makes it one of the busier live music venues in Las Vegas by volume of performances. Count's tattoo company operates alongside the other businesses, extending the Count brand into the body art space that sits naturally adjacent to the car customization and rock music worlds that define the rest of the Koker business portfolio. Las Vegas is a city that rewards branded experiences, and Koker has created a cluster of businesses that reinforce each other's identities and customer bases. He fronts Count's 77, a hard rock band focused on the sound of the 1970s, performing regularly in Las Vegas and at events connected to the automotive and entertainment worlds he moves through. His musical background is genuine and runs back to a childhood in a household where his father composed for gospel quartets. The music was always there. The band is the adult expression of something that was planted in Detroit and watered in Las Vegas across 6 decades. His personal car and motorcycle collection is itself an asset. He has approximately 50 vehicles and 70 motorcycles in his personal collection, including a flame-clad 1932 Ford Roadster and a 1966 Shelby Mustang GT350. His daily driver is a 1995 Cadillac Fleetwood finished to his own specification. His stated dream car, the one he has not yet acquired, is a 1972 Lamborghini Miura SV, which suggests that the collection is still growing and that the motivation behind it is genuine enthusiasm rather than investment strategy. In early 2025, he announced a spin-off digital series going deeper into the behind-the-scenes restoration work at Count's Kustoms, moving beyond what cable television allowed in terms of length, technical detail, and unfiltered access to what actually happens in the shop. A short clip of him discussing his early struggles with funding Count's Kustoms before Counting Cars made him famous generated over 2 million views on TikTok within a week, demonstrating that the audience, which had been built through cable television, was fully prepared to follow him into digital formats. But through all of this, the one question that fans have been asking longer than any other about Danny Koker is not about the shop or the cars or the music. It is about marriage. Specifically, it is about why he and Korie have no children, and what the internet got so completely wrong when it decided to answer that question on her behalf. The marriage the internet tried to destroy with a death rumor. Danny Koker met Korie Farah in Las Vegas in the first half of the 2000s through a mutual friend. The exact date of their meeting is something neither has publicly specified, and the date of their wedding, a small private ceremony believed to have taken place in 2014 or 2015, was kept quiet enough that most fans pieced it together retrospectively from social media posts rather than any formal announcement. Privacy around the personal has always been important to both of them. Korie Koker was born on August 8, 1965, in Las Vegas. She studied broadcasting, graduated with a bachelor's degree in the field, and worked as a camera operator and production coordinator for a local television station before her life with Danny pulled her toward a different kind of work. That background in broadcasting means she understood the television world Danny was building his profile in from both sides of the camera, and the practical intelligence she brought to their shared business ventures reflects someone who had been thinking seriously about production and presentation before Counting Cars ever existed. She is the co-owner of Count's Vamped Rock Bar and Grill and serves as its entertainment director. Danny described her role in a 2024 podcast with Vegas Revealed by saying, "Korie is my rock. She keeps the business humming and the music playing. Their professional partnership runs alongside the personal one in a way that mirrors several other couples in the automotive television world, where the business and the relationship are genuinely inseparable. They have no children together. Neither has given a public explanation for this. The most widely circulated theory among fans is that the decision was made deliberately to allow both of them to focus entirely on their careers and businesses. Because neither Danny nor Korie has addressed the subject directly, this remains speculation rather than confirmed fact. What did become a confirmed and corrected fact was the death rumor that circulated online and created genuine alarm among Counting Cars fans. A woman named Danny Koker died in a car accident. And when the news spread across the internet without the critical detail that this was a different woman with the same name, thousands of fans believed that Danny Koker's wife had been killed. The story spread rapidly across social media platforms and generated an enormous volume of searches and posts that treated it as an established fact. Danny Koker herself eventually addressed the rumor through her Instagram, confirming that she was alive and that the deceased woman in the reports shared her name, but was not her. Danny has kept the real Korie away from the cameras for most of their marriage, and the death rumor showed exactly why the decision to stay private makes sense. They support local animal shelters together, which Korie has described as a cause close to both of their hearts as avid pet lovers. Their philanthropy, like their personal life, operates quietly away from the lights of the Count's empire. So, if the theory of them not having children because of work is true, what exactly are they building? And why is it so important? What he finally confirmed about the show. The question that follows every successful reality show about a functioning business is the same one that followed Counting Cars from its earliest seasons. How much of it is real? When Danny Koker argues with a seller about a car's price, is that argument happening because the numbers genuinely do not match? Or because a producer has told both parties where the conversation needs to land? Danny Koker has addressed this across multiple interviews with a consistency that suggests a considered position rather than a defensive one. His confirmed position is that Count's Kustoms was a real business doing real restoration work long before any camera arrived, and that it continues to operate as a real business, regardless of what the cameras are doing on any given day. The cars, the work, and the mechanical knowledge is real and predates the show by decades. What he has acknowledged is that television requires structure that a freely operating business does not naturally provide. Cars need to be found, appraised, worked on, and finished in time frames that produce episode-length stories with clear beginnings and endings. The editing constructs a narrative from what is actually a messier and more unpredictable process. Conversations that took place across multiple days get compressed into scenes that feel immediate. The drama that appears on screen is the selected portion of the real drama, which is usually more complicated and less cleanly resolved than what any half-hour episode can contain. He has also been direct about the reality of running a shop of Count's Kustoms' reputation, which is that genuinely elite work costs what genuinely elite work costs, and that the negotiations shown on screen reflect real financial tension between what a restoration costs and what clients expect to pay for it. The business is not a prop. The arguments about money are not entirely scripted. The expertise is entirely genuine. What has never been in dispute is his personal collection. the approximately 50 vehicles and 70 motorcycles in his private collection exist entirely independently of the show and represent decades of purchasing decisions made purely on personal enthusiasm. His dream car remains the 1972 Lamborghini Miura SV, which he has not yet acquired, despite the means to do so. The gap between what he could afford and what he wants tells you that the collection is driven by love rather than convenience. At 62, Danny Koker is still running Count's Kustoms, but that's not all, because he is also still fronting Count's 77, hosting Counting Cars, cooperating Count's Vamped with Korie, still wearing the same black bandana, and still building something that started with a hobby in Las Vegas and became a $15 million empire rooted in faith, cars, and a decade-plus marriage to a woman who was once mistakenly reported dead, but is very much alive and working beside him. After hearing everything Danny Koker has finally confirmed at 62, which part of the revelation surprised you most? And do you think Counting Cars deserves more credit for being a genuinely real business show than the reality television genre typically gets? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.